Greetings. On behalf of myself, Brian Cruz, the Douglas County Election Commissioner, and the staff here at the Douglas County Election Commission, we thank each of you for being a poll worker in the upcoming election on Tuesday, November 3rd. It will take approximately 2,400 of you to make this day a success. Our nation has conducted elections throughout its history, through a civil war, through world wars, and even a pandemic in 1918. We know that the voters of Douglas County are resilient, and once again, an election during a pandemic will happen, and democracy in action will take place with our voices being heard. Wishing each of you a safe and healthy Election Day.
On Election Day, there is the Election Commissioner, Deputy Election Commissioner, Election Commission staff, and then the District Supervisors, the Inspector, and the clerks and judges. District Supervisors are deputies of the Election Commissioner and are responsible for supervising 10 to 15 polling places. A District Supervisor will visit your polling place several times on Election Day. The Inspector is also a deputy of the Election Commission and therefore acts as a nonpartisan throughout the day. While the Inspector supervises the polling place and assigns lunch and dinner breaks, the Inspector may also fill in for clerks or judges who are on break regardless of party affiliation. If poll workers have questions on Election Day, they should ask their Inspector or look in the election manual. Clerks are responsible for checking a voter's status and determining which ballot the judge should give the voter. Judges are responsible for handing the ballot to and receiving the voted ballot from a voter and depositing the ballot into the ballot box. Clerks and judges may be promoted to inspector. This training session encompasses material for both clerks and judges and inspectors. If you have been drafted for poll worker duty, you are required to serve 4 elections. After serving 4 elections, we hope that you will have enjoyed the experience so much that you'll continue to serve as a volunteer. Because whether you are a draftee or a volunteer, you are covered under Nebraska state law so that you cannot be penalized by your employer for election service. If you are having trouble with your employer receiving time off for election duty, please contact the Election Board Coordinator, who will work with your employer to make sure you get the required time off.
We want you to feel comfortable in your role as poll workers. You'll have all sorts of resources like the election manual and experienced poll workers with you, and of course you can call us at the Election Commission at any time. You heard an important clarification in this segment. Inspectors are a deputy of the Election Commission, and therefore, no matter their party affiliation, they act as a nonpartisan. This should make it easier for inspectors to fill in when poll workers go on break. The inspector does not need to be of a different party than the poll worker they're paired with. Also, the inspector will not need to have a poll worker of a different party accompany them to the collection center for midday or back to the Election Commission for night drop.
Seven to 10 days before Election Day, everyone will receive an assignment letter. If you are assigned to be a clerk or judge, then your assignment letter will simply state the polling place location and the time you are to report. If you are assigned to be an inspector, your assignment letter will include the polling place location, as well as the list of assigned workers by precinct and the polling place information sheet. Inspectors, using the assigned workers by precinct report, will call their poll workers no later than the Friday prior to Election Day. Inspectors should introduce themselves and leave their phone number with the poll worker, preferably a cell phone number if they have one. Keeping the lines of communication open between the inspector and the poll workers is important, so that the poll workers may contact the inspector if they will be late or absent on Election Day. Inspectors should report any issues with their poll workers to the Election Board Coordinator so that reassignments, if necessary, can be made before Election Day. The polling place information sheet has all of the information inspectors need to know about the polling place for Election Day. Prior to Election Day, inspectors should call the primary contact for their polling place. This is the person responsible for opening the building. The contact information is listed on the polling place information sheet. Inspectors should introduce themselves and find out at what door they are supposed to meet the contact. They should ask what that person looks like. It's always good to know who you're looking for. Inspectors should confirm the contact person will be at the polling place by 7 a.m. and also verify that the election equipment will be in the location as stated on the polling place information sheet. The polling place information sheet indicates whether the polling place stores the voting booths. The inspector should confirm that the booths will be located with the other equipment on Election Day morning. Any polling place issues should be reported to the Election Resource Coordinator, who will provide assistance in resolving the problem.
Assignment letters go out on October 14th, and we do encourage all poll workers to request an early voting by mail ballot because we cannot guarantee you will be assigned to the polling place for your own home warden precinct. So please request a by mail ballot. Clerks and judges, you heard in this segment that your inspector is going to contact you prior to Election Day. If there are reasons you feel you may be late on Election Day, or if you need to take a break at a particular time that day, please share that with your inspector so that they may plan accordingly. Inspectors, you heard in this segment that you should contact your poll workers and the polling place. Now call Michael if you have issues with your poll workers, or call me, I'm Liz, if you have issues with your polling place. Verify information from your polling place information sheet, like equipment location, booths, contact person, the door you need to go to first thing in the morning. The more questions you ask, the better prepared you're going to be.
On Election Day, polls are open to voters between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. You need to arrive at 7 a.m. to prepare the polling place for voters, and you will need to stay until after the polls close to restore the voting location to its original condition. All poll workers must work these hours, and you will be provided 90 minutes of paid break time. Since it will be a long day and there may be slower voting times, feel free to bring snacks, reading material, or crafts. Just remember to put these items away when voters are present. While at the polls, casual dress is acceptable, just not too casual. Avoid ripped or torn clothing, soiled items, and sweatpants. Jeans are acceptable, but should be in good, clean condition. The point is, dress comfortably but professionally. Your manner of dress should reflect your position as representatives of the county. Your biggest responsibility on Election Day is to protect the rights of voters through the proper administration of election procedures, whether you agree with a voter's political viewpoint or not. Be quiet when voters are present. Treat each voter with respect and kindness, maintaining a non-biased, non-partisan attitude at all times. Read Steps to Handle Irate Voters in the election manual so you can be prepared with concrete methods to assist voters who may have issues. Stay calm and cool. If you appear to be calm and organized, voters will be more likely to remain patient. Just like voters, your fellow poll workers come from all types of backgrounds. Sometimes personalities don't mesh. Encourage your fellow poll workers to work together, despite any differences. After all, you only have to get along for one day. And finally, polling places can be hard to come by, so it's important to maintain a good relationship with the site. Be courteous and cooperative with polling place staff. Obey building rules and regulations, and be sure to clean up after yourselves. All poll workers will receive evaluation forms to complete and return at the end of the day. Evaluations are used by the Election Commission to review the strengths and weaknesses of our poll workers and recommend promotion. These evaluations are kept confidential. As you work together throughout the day, observe the actions of your fellow poll workers, keeping in mind the evaluation points on the form.
Please keep your conversations with fellow poll workers and voters politically neutral. We must maintain a nonpartisan attitude at all times. Your job is to administer the processes and procedures of the election. When voters are present, you need to be quiet. The only conversations you should be having when voters are present is in regard to processing voters.
Observers are usually sent by political parties to observe the voting process. Observers need to stay at least 8 feet from the books, the ballot box, and voting booths. Observers may not look through the books to see who has voted. Observers may ask you questions, but you should not answer them. The only question you may answer is, how many have you had vote today? But you may not elaborate on or break down how many Republicans or how many Democrats, for example. The avoidance of political conversations while in the polling place is the law. This is considered electioneering. Electioneering is also the display of candidate buttons, badges, or signs, handing out pre-marked sample ballots or other campaign literature, or verbally urging support for or opposition to an issue or candidate on the ballot. Electioneering is only allowed beyond 200 feet from the polling place. This means by voters and by you. If a voter comes into your polling place wearing any form of campaign attire, please politely ask the voter to remove the item. If the item is a t-shirt, ask the voter to cover the t-shirt with the jacket if possible. If a voter wishes to engage in a political conversation or make statements about his or her political viewpoint, please request that the voter hold their comments until outside the 200-foot limit. Many voters do not realize they are in violation of the 200-foot rule, so please be polite and respectful at all times. Exit polls are sometimes conducted on Election Day in order to survey the voters on their choices. Exit polls may be conducted 20 feet from the entrance to the polling place if outside, or 100 feet from voting booths if conducted inside the building. Media may be at your polling place and are permitted to take photos and video as long as they are not viewing a voter's choices on the ballot. Just like observers, the media must stay 8 feet from ballot boxes, poll books, and voting booths. If the media comes to your polling place on Election Day, they should have checked in with the Election Commission first. If not, please ask them to call the Election Commission.
Remember, the 200-foot limit applies to the perimeter of the building. It's 200 feet from the exterior walls of the building. Walk around the building to ensure that there are no campaign signs within the electioneering limit, and signs are posted out straight from the door. We will contact you prior to Election Day if observers are going to be in your precinct, and we will contact you on Election Day if the media has given us advance notice that they would like to come to your polling place.
Let's talk about opening the polls. Here's what you're going to do. Locate the election equipment, which includes the express vote, the ballot box, the precinct box, and the voting booths. The inspector will open the precinct box by breaking the seal and unlocking the padlock. The lock combination will be on the polling place information sheet in the inspector's assignment letter. The inspector is going to first locate the election manual. This manual has all the information needed for Election Day. Open up the election manual to the Opening the Polls section and follow the checklist step by step. Following the checklist will ensure you stay organized so that everything will be ready when the polls open at 8 a.m. Once these tasks are complete, the inspector will assign the poll workers to their jobs as either a clerk or a judge. Clerks will be responsible for Book 1 and Book 2. Judges are responsible for the ballots. It's very important to check the ballot numbers against the polling place information sheet, as well as the ward and precinct at the bottom of the ballot against the ward and precinct on the side of the precinct box. Judges will initial the bottom of the ballot pages. The ballots must be initialed by 2 poll workers of different parties. The judge's initials must be inside the box. Initials must not go below the box and into the ballot control track. Stay above the control track and within the initials box. If you have any trouble on Election Day, call the Election Commission at 402-444-VOTE. If the situation cannot be solved over the phone, then a district supervisor will be dispatched to your location to give you a hand.
As in the past, we will have an early vote list courier come around in the morning before 9 a.m. to deliver a list of people who have voted early between the time we printed the books and the day prior to the election. The courier will give you instructions on how to mark book 1, but the poll workers are responsible for getting the book updated. Mark the book right away. Do not delay. And if you haven't been able to update book 1 by the time voters arrive, make sure you're checking the list before you check in a voter. We are asking you to take a survey of voting wait times using the line length information collection sheet. It's very straightforward. At the top of every hour, count the number of people waiting in line to sign book 1 and then record that information on the sheet. Now, if you're not able to do it, inspectors ask clerk 1 to make the count and then record the information on the sheet. Your participation in this is mandatory, not optional. We're working with an outside agency on this study, and it will only work if every precinct participates. So your cooperation is greatly appreciated.
Now let's talk about safety. It is important to keep safety in mind at the polling place on Election Day. Some potential emergencies could be fire, tornado, utility outage, medical emergency, terrorism, bomb threat, or an armed assailant. Remember to think about what to do in case of an emergency by being on the lookout for anything unusual. However, never put your life or health at risk. If you would need to evacuate the polling place, and if it is safe to do so, you should take the following items with you: the ballot box containing voted ballots, the poll books, that's books 1 and 2, and any unvoted ballots, but only if it is safe to do so. If an emergency occurs at your polling place, contact the Election Commission's emergency hotline at 402-444-7142. This number is only to be used in the event of an emergency. Running short of ballots or being unable to open the precinct box is not an emergency. Be sure you review emergency procedures in the election manual and are prepared to act in case of an emergency. COVID-19 mitigation efforts will be in place on Election Day. Poll workers will be provided with N95 masks, gloves, face shields, and disinfectant wipes. These items will be found in the precinct box. Also available in the precinct box is painter's tape to mark the floor in 6-foot increments to maintain social distancing. Hand sanitizer will be provided for use by both poll workers and voters. Additionally, masks will be provided for voters who do not have one and want one. On Election Day, you may be called upon to assist voters who may have a physical disability, be visually impaired, or unable to read. Please offer to voters with a disability the use of the Express Vote Universal Voting Terminal. Let's learn more about the Express Vote. The Express Vote Universal Voting System Terminal is a new piece of equipment purchased by the state of Nebraska to replace the outdated Automark Voter Assist Terminal. The Express Vote is a federally mandated piece of equipment designed to allow voters with disabilities the ability to vote independently and privately. Here is how you will set up the Express Vote on Election Day morning. First, locate the Express Vote in its black nylon carrying case. Bring the Express Vote to a table in the voting area that will afford a user privacy. Remove the black power cord from the side accessory pocket and set it to the side. Open the case. Firmly grip the Express Vote on either side and gently lift it from the main compartment. The Express Vote weighs 25 pounds, so it can be lifted with or without assistance. Insert the black power cord into the back of the unit and plug the power cord into an electrical outlet. Then pull the silver metal stand out from its locked position. Tilt the Express Vote back onto the stand and arrange the cord. Remove the black barrel key from the Express Vote envelope located in the side accessory compartment. Use this key to access the panel on the upper left side of the unit. Open the door and turn the unit on by pushing up on the rocker switch. You'll hear 2 beeps. The rocker switch will return to the middle or neutral position. Close and lock the panel door. Locate the election code in the Express Vote setup instructions found in the Express Vote and Voter Assistance section of the election manual. At the prompt, type in the code. This code is case sensitive, so use the Shift key when necessary. Be aware that the touchscreen response is delayed during this process, so avoid typing too fast. The Express Vote is now ready for voting. Any voter may use the Express Vote to vote privately and independently. If you recognize that a voter needs to or wishes to use the Express Vote, process the voter as you would any voter using Book 1 and Book 2. Escort the voter to the Express Vote unit. Explain to the voter that to initiate their voting session, you will be inserting the ballot activation card, which is the special Express Vote ballot paper, and selecting their ballot from the menu. With the cut corner up and to the right, insert the ballot activation card into the Express Vote feed tray. Next, select the proper ballot from the menu on the screen and confirm it is the correct ballot on the resulting screen. If you've selected the wrong one, you can go back and correct your choice. The voter may now vote using the touchscreen or the detachable keypad called the Accessible Voting Console. The touchscreen can be adjusted for size of type, brightness, and contrast. The keypad on the side of the unit is attached by Velcro. Grip firmly with 2 hands to detach. The headphones must be inserted into the headphone jack in order for the keypad to be engaged. The Accessible Voting Console, or keypad, has raised keys which are marked in Braille. If a sight-impaired voter cannot read Braille, the keys feel like the direction in which they point. Use the black diamond-shaped screen button to turn the touchscreen to the privacy mode. Use the green round repeat button to repeat the audio. Speed up or slow down the audio with the purple tempo button, and adjust the volume with the orange volume button. There is also a pause function as well as a button to return the voter to the home screen. The voter sets their own pace when using the Express Vote to mark their ballot. The voter can move backwards or forwards through races, change selections within a race, and check their selections on the summary screen. The voter's choices are not printed onto the activation card until the voter presses the Print Ballot button. Once printed, the ballot will be ejected. Pull the ballot from the feed tray and place it into its special privacy sleeve. Deposit the sleeve with the ballot inside into the ballot box in the presence of the voter. If the voter prefers to have someone assist them, then the person providing assistance must sign the Voter Assistance Oath in the back of Book 2. Please mark next to the voter's name in Book 1 that assistance was rendered, along with the printed name of the person who assisted the voter. Something else that is provided by law to assist voters is curbside voting. Voters who cannot enter the voting location may request that a ballot be brought to their vehicle. Look up the voter in Book 1 to see if they are registered. A clerk and judge of different parties will take Book 1, Book 2, the appropriate ballot with a ballot sleeve, and append to the vehicle or a convenient place within the building. Proceed with normal voting procedures. If the voter required assistance, then mark assistance rendered in Book 1 next to the voter's name, as well as having the person who provided assistance sign the voter assistance oath page in Book 2. Deposit the ballot into the ballot box.
The voter assistance oath is used by anyone who is privy or aware of a voter's choices on their ballot. Simply assisting a voter by answering a question or describing how the express vote works does not require you to sign the voter assistance oath. Only if a voter's choices have been revealed to you during the assistance or to a person assisting the voter, like a friend or a relative, should the oath in the back of Book 2 be completed. If you are going to mark the ballot as part of the assistance, you need to have a poll worker of a different party act as a witness. This is part of the law and assures the voter that their ballot is being marked correctly by you in accordance with the voter's choices. Remember when using the express vote that the headphones need to be plugged in order to enable the detachable keypad. Additionally, the screen will present you with a choice to use the keypad or return to the touchscreen. If the voter wishes to use the keypad, you need to select Continue at the prompt.
Let's talk about the duties of clerks and judges. The greeter is assigned to greet voters, verify that voters are in the proper precinct, cover lunch and dinner breaks as a clerk or a judge, and close the line at 8 p.m. Clerk 1 is assigned to Book 1, the list of eligible voters. Clerk 2 is assigned to Book 2, the canvas list of persons voting. Judge 1 hands the ballot to the voter, and Judge 2 receives the voted ballot from the voter and places it into the ballot box. If you are assigned to be the greeter, you will first greet the voter and verify that the voter is in the proper precinct by looking up the voter's name in the supplemental list of eligible voters found in the Book 1 and Book 2 envelope. Then, ask the voter for his or her address. Do not tell the voter the address we have listed. If the voter is listed in the supplemental list of eligible voters at the same address provided, direct the voter to the proper check-in line depending upon the first letter of the voter's last name, either A through K or L through Z. If the voter is not listed in the supplemental list of eligible voters, ask the voter to contact the Election Commission office or access our website to look up his or her address and find the correct polling location. However, if the voter has already contacted the Election Commission and knows his or her ward and precinct and ballot number, ask the voter to join the line of voters waiting to vote. If the voter is listed in the supplemental list of eligible voters with a yes in the EV ballot sent column next to their name, ask the voter if they received their early voting ballot. If the voter says yes, then request that the voter vote their early voting ballot and return it to the Election Commission or drop box location by 8 p.m. Requesting an early voting ballot eliminates a voter's option to vote at the polling place. If the voter says no or tells you that the ballot was lost or damaged, then the voter may vote a provisional ballot at the polling place. If you are assigned to be the greeter, you will also cover lunch and dinner breaks for other poll workers as either a clerk or a judge. Please ensure that you are a different political party than the clerk or judge you are paired with. If at 8 p.m. there are voters in line to vote, the greeter will stand behind the last person who was in line at 8 p.m. and remain at the end of the line until the person in front of you has received a ballot. After the polls close, the greeter will assist the other poll workers in cleaning up the polling place. Clerk 1 works with Book 1, the list of eligible voters. Here is a sample of Book 1. As you will see, all the procedures for poll workers are step by step. Just follow them from left to right, starting with Step 1. Steps 1 and 2 are the voter's name and address. Step 3 is the voter status column. The information in the voter status column can greatly affect how and if the voter will be voting at your polling place, so pay close attention to this column. Step 4 is the voter serial number. The line number from Book 2, which we'll look at in a moment, is written into Step 5. The voter will sign in Step 6, and Step 7 is the voter's ballot number. Let's review ballots in more detail. At the top of the ballot, you will see the ballot type and ballot number. For example, the ballot type may be candidate or special issues. Since a general election is a nonpartisan election, every voter will receive the same ballot types. However, you still need to pay attention to Book 1 to ensure you are giving the voter the proper ballot number for the voter's ward, precinct, and split. Every ward and precinct has at least one ballot number. The higher the ward and precinct numbers, the higher the ballot number. For example, the ballot number in Ward 1, Precinct 1 is 001, but the ballot number in Ward 8, Precinct 19 could be 229. Sometimes there is more than one ballot number in a precinct. This happens if there is a split created by a political subdivision boundary within the precinct. In your ward and precinct, you may have one or more ballot numbers depending if there are splits in your precinct. The polling place information sheet will show if there are multiple ballot numbers for your precinct. So, the ballot number a voter receives depends on where the voter lives. Book 1 will always tell you which ballot number to give to the voter. If you give the voter the wrong ballot number, that means you've given the voter the wrong ballot, which causes voter confusion. Always check Book 1 for the correct ballot number to give to the voter. At the bottom of the ballot, you will find the ward and precinct, which should match your assignment. You will also find the spaces for 2 judges or any 2 poll workers of different parties to initial the ballot. Clerk 2 works with Book 2, the canvas list of persons voting. This is an example of Book 2. Book 2 is basically a written record of every voter and the ballot the voter received. Again, it's left to right, step by step. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are where Clerk 2 will note the time, the voter's name, and serial number. Step 4 is the line number that Clerk 2 will read to Clerk 1. Step 5 is where Clerk 2 will indicate that every voter received a candidate ballot. Step 6 is where Clerk 2 will indicate that every voter received a special issues ballot. And Step 7 is where Clerk 2 indicates the ballot number the voter received. Let's see how clerks and judges work together to assist voters. Clerk 1 will greet the voter and ask, "May I have your name, please?" Step 1. Clerk 1 will look up the voter's name in Book 1. Again, the voter's name is found in Column 1. In this example, the voter's name is Arlene M. Johnson. Clerk 1 will ask, "May I have your address, please?" Never state the voter's address to the voter and then ask if it is correct, because it is too easy for the voter to agree, even if his or her address is actually different. Always ask the voter for the address. Step 2. Clerk 1 will verify that the address the voter has stated matches what is in Book 1. Arlene has stated her address is 29103 South 144th Street in Omaha, which matches what is in Book 1. Step 3. Clerk 1 will check the voter status column for any messages there. Arlene's voter status is blank, so she can vote normally and Clerk 1 may proceed. Step 4 is the voter's serial number, 392100. Clerk 1 will now tell Clerk 2 the voter's name and serial number. Clerk 2 will note the time the voter signed Book 1 in Step 1, and then print the voter's name, Arlene M. Johnson, in Step 2 of Book 2, and Arlene's serial number, 392100, in Step 3 of Book 2. Clerk 2 checks for the line number and then tells Clerk 1, "I'm signing Arlene in on line 1." And so, Clerk 1 will write a numeral 1 in column 5 in Book 1. Clerk 1 will then ask Arlene to sign Book 1 in Step 6. The voter can sign upside down, so you don't have to turn the book around. Clerk 1 follows over to the right of the signature line into Step 7 to check the ballot number that Arlene is to receive. Step 7 states Arlene is to receive ballot number 177. Clerk 1 tells this to Clerk 2, who marks an X in Step 5 to indicate that Arlene received a candidate ballot, then an X in Step 6 to indicate that Arlene received a special issues ballot, and then prints 177 in Step 7 to indicate Arlene received ballot number 177. Now, here is where the judges come in. Judge 1 is responsible for handing the proper ballot to the voter. Because Clerk 2 will tell Judge 1 which ballot number a voter is to receive, it is very important that Clerk 2 and Judge 1 communicate with and understand each other verbally to ensure the voter receives the proper ballot. Clerk 2 tells Judge 1 that Arlene is to receive ballot number 177. Judge 1 will pull a candidate ballot off the candidate 177 stack on the table, plus a special issues ballot number 177, and then checks to make sure the ballot pages have been initialed by 2 poll workers of different parties and that there are 2 sets of initials at the bottom of each ballot page. Judge 1 will put both ballot pages into a privacy sleeve and hand the voter a pencil. Ballots should never be placed in privacy sleeves ahead of time. Always pull the appropriate ballot and then sleeve it in the presence of the voter. Once the voter has finished marking his or her ballot, Judge 2 will receive the voted ballot from the voter. Check to ensure that each ballot page is initialed by 2 poll workers of different parties, then place the ballot in the ballot box. By law, a voter cannot place his or her ballot into the ballot box. Judge 2 will do this in the presence of the voter. If a voter makes a mistake on their ballot, the voter will write void across the ballot page. Please note, the ballot refers to the set of pieces of paper. If the voter spoils one page of a 2-page ballot, then the voter will write void across both pages, fold them in half, and give the ballot to the judge. The judge then places the spoiled ballot into the rejected ballot envelope. The voter will then be given a new set of ballot pages. A voter may receive only 1 original and 3 replacements. So if they're on their 4th one, you might want to tell them this is their last chance.
Because this is a presidential general election with higher turnout, we are making every effort to have 2 sets of poll workers for a total of 10 poll workers. There will be an inspector, an assistant inspector, the greeter, 4 clerks, 2 for each table, 2 Judge 1s, and 1 Judge 2. We are splitting the books, that's book 1 and 2, A through K and L through Z, for 2 voter check-in lines, the first letter of the voter's last name determining which line they get into. So each line will have a clerk 1 and a clerk 2, with 1 Judge 1 to hand out the ballot, and then there is a Judge 2 with the ballot box. Here's a helpful hint if you're clerk 1 and you can't find someone in book 1. Ask, do you go by any other name? The ballot types for this election are a candidate and special issues. That's 2 pieces of paper. So every voter will receive a candidate ballot and a special issues ballot. The ballot number on each page needs to match the ballot number listed for the voter in book 1. Ensure that your initials are within the poll worker initial box on the ballot. If you stray outside of that box and into the timing track at the bottom, the ballot counters will not be able to read the ballot. So stay inside the box. If you are a Judge 2, ensure that you're checking for the initials at the bottom of the ballot before the ballot goes into the ballot box. If there are any issues or questions about a voter's ballot, the issue needs to be resolved before the ballot is deposited into the ballot box. You may need to contact the Election Commission for help in resolving the issue.
And now let's discuss voter status and provisional voting. A voter's status can affect how and where a voter votes on Election Day. It is important that clerks are checking the voter status before giving the voter a ballot. Let's look at some examples. Let's start with Betty Johnson. Clerk 1 looks up Betty in Book 1 and asks Betty for her address. Betty states 39210 North 144th Street in Omaha. Clerk 1 checks the voter status column and it says, Address confirmation required. This means that the Election Commission received information which indicated that Betty may have moved. So you need to ask Betty, do you still live there? If she says yes, then ask Betty to sign Book 1. By signing, she is swearing that she lives at that address. But if Betty says, no, I moved, but this is where I've always voted, then Betty needs to get her new polling place and ballot information so she can vote a provisional ballot. A voter needs to vote in the precinct where they live. So you'll give Betty a green Election Commission contact slip and ask that she call the Election Commission. We'll get her to the new polling place for her new address. She won't be in Book 1 at her new polling place, so she will vote a provisional ballot. The second example is for Carol Johnson. Carol confirms her name and address with Clerk 1, who sees that the voter status column states early voting ballot sent, vote provisionally. This means that the Election Commission has a request on file for Carol for an early voting ballot. If Carol says she did not receive an early voting ballot, or lost or destroyed it, then Carol will vote a provisional ballot, and once it is confirmed that her early voting ballot was not returned to the Election Commission, her provisional ballot can be counted. The last example is for Kathy Johnson. Kathy confirms her name and address with Clerk 1, who sees that the voter status column states need ID to vote. This means that Kathy registered to vote for the first time by mail and did not send in, along with her application, identification information. This is the only time you will ask a voter for identification. If they have ID, then they'll sign Book 1 in the presence of a witness, you, and then they can vote normally. But if they do not have or refuse to show some identification, then the voter will vote a provisional ballot. This is a rare occurrence. Some acceptable forms of identification are listed for your reference and are also included in the election manual. Okay, so let's talk about provisional voting. Provisional voting allows a voter who may not have been able to vote normally to cast a ballot, and then the provisional voter's information is reviewed by the Election Commission to determine if the ballot can be counted or not. So now that you know the reasons why a voter would need to vote a provisional ballot, let's see how you fit into the process. Section 1 asks the poll worker to determine the reason why a voter is voting provisionally. Once the reason has been determined why the voter is voting provisionally, give the envelope to the voter and ask the voter to read and complete Section 2 on the left side of the envelope. Section 2, Question 1. A voter who has moved and did not re-register needs to contact the Election Commission so that he or she has the proper ward and precinct and ballot number for his or her new address. If the voter has not already contacted the Election Commission for this information, the voter will need to contact the Election Commission. If the voter is marked as early voting ballot sent or need ID to vote, you, the poll worker, fill in the ward precinct and ballot number as it is stated for the voter in Book 1. Question 2. The voter will complete and sign the Nebraska voter registration application located in the clear pocket on the back of the envelope. All provisionals must have a completed voter registration application no matter the reason why the voter is voting provisionally. Question 3. The voter will complete the green provisional pin receipt, also located in the clear plastic pocket on the back of the provisional envelope. Question 4. The voter will state in the spaces provided when and where they registered to vote most recently, as well as their name and address at the time they last registered to vote. If the voter says they don't know, advise them to use their best judgment. Question 5 asks the voter to read the oath and sign the envelope. If the voter does not sign the envelope, the ballot will not count. Once the voter has completed their side of the envelope, that's Section 2, now the poll worker will complete Section 3 on the right-hand side of the envelope. Section 3, Question 1. Does the ward and precinct where you are working match the ward and precinct in Section 2, Question 1? If it does not, the voter is in the wrong place for his or her new address. Send the voter with the envelope to the polling place for the ward and precinct listed in Section 2, Question 1. If it does match, write the ward and precinct where you are working in the spaces provided and move on to Question 2. Question 2. Using the spaces provided, write in the ballot number the voter is to receive from the information shown in Section 2, Question 1. This information will determine which ballot you give to the voter. In order for the voter's ballot to count, the ballot number must match their new address, or for early voting ballots sent or need ID to vote, the information listed in Book 1. Question 3 asks you to check to ensure a Nebraska voter registration application has been completed. If a complete voter registration form is not included with the provisional, the voter's ballot will not count. Question 4. Copy the 5-digit PIN from the green provisional PIN receipt into the boxes provided on the envelope. Give the PIN receipt to the voter to take with them. Question 5. Verify that the voter has signed the envelope on their side. That's in Section 2, Question 5. Check the box if the voter signed the envelope. If the voter did not sign the envelope, ask the voter to do so. If the voter does not sign the envelope, the voter's ballot will not be counted. Question 6. Please print your name in the space provided. There is no need for you to sign the envelope. We simply want to know who assisted the voter. And finally, in Question 7, this is a reminder to process the voter using the green pages in the back of Books 1 and 2. Don't forget to process the voter. Once the provisional voter and you have completed the provisional ballot envelope, the voter will get back into the voting line to be processed by the clerks. Provisional voters are processed like any other voter, only this time the clerks will use the green pages in the back of Books 1 and 2. Clerk 1 will look over the provisional ballot envelope to ensure that it's filled out in its entirety. Clerk 1 will print the voter's name and address, stating the voter's name to Clerk 2, who will print the time and name in the green pages at the back of Book 2. Clerk 2 will tell Clerk 1 the line number the provisional voter is being signed in on, and, in turn, Clerk 1 will print the line number in Book 1. Using the front of the envelope, Clerk 1 will tell Clerk 2 which ballot number the voter is to receive. Clerk 2 will indicate the ballot received in the appropriate columns of Book 2. Then, the voter will sign on the line in Book 1. Clerk 2 will tell Judge 1 which ballot number the voter is to receive. The judge will pull the appropriate ballot pages for the voter, placing them into the envelope with the initials showing at the top of the flap. There is no need for a privacy sleeve because the provisional ballot envelope will act as a privacy sleeve. Once the voter has finished marking his or her ballot, Judge 2 will receive the voted ballot from the voter, checking to ensure the ballot has been signed with 2 sets of initials by poll workers of different parties. Judge 2 will also check to ensure that the envelope has been completed. Has the voter signed the envelope? Is the voter registration showing in the clear vinyl pocket? Does the voter have his or her green PIN receipt? Once it has been established that everything has been fully completed, Judge 2 will peel and seal the envelope and place it into the ballot box. There is a voted ballot in that envelope, so it belongs in the ballot box, no exceptions.
We have designed the provisional envelope to be easy to understand and complete. The voter can work on their section independently, so you can continue to process regular voters while the provisional voter fills out their side of the envelope. The most common reason that someone will vote a provisional ballot is that that person moved and did not change their voter registration address. The easiest way to think of this is if the address the voter states at check-in does not match exactly what the address that is in Book 1, the voter will vote provisionally. And most likely they will vote provisionally somewhere else. Give them a green contact slip and ask them to call the Election Commission or go onto our website to get their polling place and ballot number. Now, if they don't get to the right polling place, they won't get the right ballot and their vote will not count. Did you notice in the dramatization during this last segment that when it came time to process the provisional voter using the green pages in the back of Book 1 and 2, that anyone who came in contact with the provisional envelope looked at it? There are many opportunities to ensure the envelope is filled out correctly. So when the envelope comes your way, check it over to make sure the envelope is signed and that there is a completed voter registration in the clear pocket on the back. Every provisional voter needs to fill out a voter registration application. There are no exceptions. Yes, even early voters need to fill out a voter registration application.
Now, we are going to review other special exceptions in voting procedure. Voters who have requested an early voting ballot are identified as such in Book 1. Requesting an early voting ballot eliminates the voter's right to vote at the polls. However, if the voter says they never received or requested the ballot, or if the ballot was lost, stolen, or destroyed, they may vote a provisional ballot. Voters may not turn in their early voting ballots at the polls. They must return them to the Election Commission or drop box location by 8 p.m. on Election Day. Drop box locations are listed in the election manual. Please do not, under any circumstances, accept early voting ballots at your polling place. If a voter is insistent, inform the voter that their ballot will not be counted if dropped off to you. If a voter is attempting to return an unvoted early voting ballot, please inform the voter that they must vote the ballot and return it to the Election Commission or a drop box location by 8 p.m. on Election Day. If a voter's name has changed due to marital status or for any other reason, then the voter needs to fill out a new voter registration application. If the voter has not moved and just their name changed, then the voter is allowed to vote normally. Ask the voter to sign both names in Book 1. For example, if the voter's name is Rebecca Johnson and she married a Smith, then she'll sign Rebecca Johnson Smith on the Rebecca Johnson line. If the voter did move as well as change their name, then give the voter a green election contact slip and request that they call the Election Commission so we can get them the proper ballot for their new address. They will vote a provisional ballot at their new polling place. A voter registration application must be completed for any changes or corrections. If the voter states their address is incorrect, ask the voter to call the Election Commission so that we can confirm they are in the proper polling location. A typographical error in an address could potentially put a voter in an entirely different precinct. Make sure the voter calls us first before you allow the voter to vote. In the back of Book 1 are the yellow cancellation pages. When voters tell you that someone they know has moved or passed away, that information can be recorded on these pages. Reasons to use the cancellation pages include if the voter has moved out of Douglas County, is deceased, wishes to cancel their own voter registration, or if there is a duplicate registration for the voter. Working from left to right, print the voter's name and address as it appears in Book 1, the voter's date of birth, the nature of the cancellation, and then ask the person making the report to print and sign his or her name in the signature box provided. Finally, ask them to print their relationship to the voter. If you have completed voter registration applications other than those for provisional voters, place them into the voter registration envelope found in the back pocket of the election manual. At the end of the day, place this envelope in the Book 1 and Book 2 envelope.
Remember, the greeter can be very helpful in assisting voters who may have an early voting ballot and can explain what the voter needs to do so that they don't have to wait in line. Complete instructions for the greeter will be found on the back page of the supplemental list of eligible voters.
Midday delivery is when voting is paused at 2 p.m. on Election Day while voted ballots are tallied against the number of voters so far. The ballots are then delivered to a central collection center and brought to the Election Commission via collection center couriers. Here is an overview of the midday delivery process to be used. Follow the instructions on the checklist for midday delivery, which is found in the midday delivery section of the election manual.
Remember, inspectors, you act as a nonpartisan throughout the day. So while you still need to have a poll worker assist you with the midday process at the polling place, you may go to the collection center without another poll worker. This will make it easier for you to schedule a break for yourself as well as for your poll workers. Please ensure that the transfer case is sealed with the paper seal.
At 8 p.m., do not allow anyone else to get in line, but do allow those in line to complete the voting process. After all voters have had their ballots deposited into the ballot box, take the second of the 2 plastic ballot box seals and place it on the short door of the ballot box. There should now be 2 seals on the ballot box. Follow the checklist found in the Closing the Polls section of the election manual step by step. Poll workers who are not going with the inspector to deliver the ballots and equipment to the Election Commission will mark their time out for the day on the blue payroll sheet. Then the inspector will sign the payroll sheet. Place the express vote, the ballot box, and precinct box near the door to be put into the vehicle. Return the tables and chairs to their original location, and then you'll be done for the day. The inspector and the accompanying poll worker will not mark their times out for the day. This will be done by a district supervisor when the ballots and equipment are unloaded at the Election Commission. Your checklist will take you through the election night drop-off procedures. Here are some things to remember to avoid delays. Place the Election Commission parking permit on the dashboard of the vehicle. The Douglas County Election Commission has moved. We are now located at 12220 West Center Road in the Bel Air Plaza at 120th and Center in Omaha. Please review the map in the Closing the Polls section of the election manual for directions on how to reach our new location. The election night drop-off procedures have changed. Unloading will take place in a 2-stop process. Enter the plaza from 120th Street. Proceed slowly. Follow the directions of law enforcement and election officials who will direct you to Unloading Zone 1, where the express vote, precinct box, and the cell phone, if one was provided, will be unloaded from the trunk or back seat of your vehicle. Have the cell phone up front with you. Wait for the all clear signal, and then you will be directed to Unloading Zone 2, where the ballot box, election manual, the envelope containing books 1 and 2, and the signed payroll sheet will be unloaded. Stay in your vehicle at all times. Once the all clear is given to you at Unloading Zone 2, you will be instructed to make a left turn and then turn right up the hill to exit at 122nd and West Center Road.
Inspectors, because you act as a nonpartisan throughout the day, you may bring back the equipment, the books, the ballots back by yourself for night drop. However, if you cannot fit everything into your vehicle, you may have another poll worker drive in their own vehicle with the remainder. Both you and the poll worker will receive mileage and have your ending times marked on the payroll sheet. Do not forget that we have moved to 12220 West Center Road in the Bel Air Plaza at 120th and Center. Enter from 120th Street. If you have any questions or concerns before Election Day or on Election Day, please call us. We are here to help and support you. Have a great and safe and happy Election Day.